The sun was dying over the Colorado Territory, bleeding crimson across the prairie grass. In 3 days, I was set to become Mrs. Thomas Caldwell, wife to a man whose land bordered ours, whose cattle numbered in the thousands, whose name carried the weight of gold in the territorial legislature. A man I felt nothing for. I stood at the window of my father's ranch house, pressing my palm against the cool glass. Out past the red rock mesas, the Apache still moved through the canyons. They called them savages, thieves. But when I closed my eyes, I wasn't 23, dressed in silk and bound for a loveless marriage. I was 7 years old again, barefoot and wild, racing through grass taller than my head, with a boy whose laughter was as clear as the creek water. His name was Nietzsche, and he was about to ride back into my life and burn my entire world to the ground. Sarah, my mother's voice cut through the memory like a whip. Come away from the window. We have your wedding dress to finish. Margaret Whitman stood in the doorway, a woman hardened by the frontier. She'd come west with nothing but dreams, and now she was the wife of one of the territory's most prosperous ranchers. Her eyes held a cold, practical light. I'll be along, Mother, I said, not turning. Your father has invited the Caldwells for dinner tomorrow. You'll need to prepare. I know my duties. Her lips tightened. Do you? Sometimes I wonder. This is a good match, Sarah. Thomas Caldwell is a decent man. He'll provide well for you. I finally turned from the window. I know that too. But knowing it didn't make the emptiness in my chest any smaller. After she left, my mind drifted back to the secret I'd locked away for 16 years. The summer I turned 7, I'd followed a rabbit trail too far and gotten lost. I was crying under a juniper tree when he found me, an Apache boy, maybe 2 years older, with long black hair and clothes of soft leather. He wasn't frightening, he was fascinating. He showed me how to find water, which plants would soothe my cuts, and led me back to the ranch. Before he left, he pointed to himself. Nietzsche, then to me. Sarah, I'd whispered. That was the beginning. All summer we met by Willow Creek. He taught me to track, to read the clouds. I taught him English words, showed him my picture books. We were just two children in a world that hadn't taught us to hate each other yet. Then my father announced that we were moving, 50 miles north. Better land, he'd said. Safer. Farther from Apache territory. I ran to the creek to say goodbye, but Nietzsche never came. I left a message in stones, a pattern he'd taught me. Friend, return, promise. He never did. In my room, the wedding dress hung like a ghost. White satin and Irish lace that cost more than most families saw in a year. Thomas wasn't unkind. He was 35, distinguished, successful. He spoke of cattle prices and railroad expansion and the Indian problem that would soon be resolved. He planned to build a house that would be the finest in 3 counties. When I looked at him, I felt nothing. My father came in later, smelling of leather and tobacco. He was a man carved from the frontier, hard and practical. Your mother says you're being difficult. I've done everything asked of me. This marriage is important, Sarah. The territory's changing. The Apache raids are getting worse. We need strong alliances. He paused, his voice softening. I know this isn't the life you might have chosen, but dreams don't survive out here. Only strength. After he left, he added one last thing. The Apache killed a family near Silver Creek last month. 2 children. That's the reality we face, Sarah. That's why we need men like Thomas Caldwell. I sat in the lamplight, the house feeling too close, too warm. The boy I knew, the gentle boy who rescued injured birds, couldn't be the savage my father described. But then, the girl who ran wild by the creek couldn't be this woman, preparing to sell her future for an alliance. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. I slipped out to the veranda and walked the old path down to Willow Creek. The moon turned the water to silver. I sat on our rock, on the same flat boulder where I'd waited for him 16 years ago. I kept my promise, I whispered to the water. I came back, but you never did. I pulled the small piece of turquoise from under my dress. He'd given it to me on our last day together. My grandmother, he'd said, for protection. It hung on a leather cord he'd braided himself. Tomorrow I'd have to take it off and wear the pearls Thomas had given me. A movement in the shadows made me freeze. A figure emerged. For a wild, impossible moment, my heart stopped. But it was only Miguel, one of my father's old vaqueros. "Señorita," he said softly, his face concerned, "you should not be out here alone." "I'm going back now, Miguel." He nodded but didn't move. He'd been with my father from the beginning. "Tomorrow is a big day," he said carefully. "Sometimes the heart needs to say goodbye to what was." He looked at me, and for a second I thought he knew, but his expression revealed nothing. The next morning was chaos. Guests arrived. The kitchen was a whirlwind. I moved through it like a sleepwalker, letting my mother dress me, arrange my hair, fasten the pearl necklace around my throat. The heavy pearls hid the leather cord in the turquoise stone that lay against my skin. In the church, I waited in the vestibule, my father stiff and uncomfortable beside me. The organ music swelled. The doors opened. The congregation rose. I started the long walk down the aisle, my eyes fixed on Thomas waiting at the altar. He looked handsome, proud, possessive, the smile of a man who had won a prize. Halfway down the aisle, a commotion exploded outside. Horses moving fast. Voices raised in alarm. The church doors burst open. 3 Apache warriors stood there. Their faces were painted for ceremony, not war. The congregation gasped. Women screamed. Men shoved their families behind pews. The warrior in the center was tall, broad-shouldered. His hair was bound with a strip of red cloth. A scar ran along his left jaw. His eyes scanned the crowd, dark and unreadable. And then his gaze found mine. The years fell away. The church, the wedding dress, the 16 years of silence. It all vanished. It was Nietzsche. The church erupted. Men shouted for their weapons. Thomas started down the aisle, his face a mask of fury. But Nietzsche's gaze never left me. My father gripped my arm. "Get back, Sarah." I couldn't move. The turquoise stone against my skin seemed to burn. Then Nietzsche spoke, his English accented but clear. "We come in peace, to trade. We hear of wedding. Bring gifts." It was a lie. Anyone could see it was a lie. But it was enough to stop the immediate violence. Thomas reached us, planting himself between me and the Apache. "Get out," he snarled. "You have no business here." Nietzsche's companions tensed, but he raised a hand, his eyes still locked with mine over Thomas's shoulder. "We go," he said. "But first." He held out a small bundle wrapped in deerskin. "Gift for bride." The entire church held its breath. I felt myself moving, stepping around Thomas, ignoring his hand grabbing for my arm. I walked toward Nietzsche. When I stood before him, I could see the boy I'd known hidden beneath the warrior's mask. "Do you remember me?" I whispered. "I was once the girl who played at your side." Something flickered in his eyes, a crack in the stone facade. His hand trembled slightly as he held out the bundle. When I took it, our fingers brushed. 16 years collapsed into a single, searing moment. "Eba," he said, so softly only I could hear. It was his name for me. His attempt at Sarah filtered through his own tongue. "I remember." Then he turned and was gone. For a moment there was silence. Then chaos exploded. Men ran for horses and rifles. Thomas grabbed my shoulders, his face twisted with a rage that was deeper than just anger. It was suspicion, humiliation. "What did he say to you? What was that?" "Nothing," I heard myself say. "He said nothing." My father was there, pulling me away, shouting orders. The minister was trying to restore calm. And in the center of the storm, I clutched the deerskin bundle, my world shattering around me. "Sarah, what have you done?" My mother's voice cut through the noise, sharp with a sudden, terrible understanding. I looked at her, at Thomas, at the faces in the pews torn between scandal and bloodlust. Then I looked down at the bundle in my hands. I unwrapped it. Inside, nestled in soft leather, was an eagle feather and a small silver thimble, worn smooth with time, my mother's thimble, the one I'd tried to give him 16 years ago. The fairy tale was over. Reality had just walked through the church doors, and I knew, with the kind of clarity that only comes at the end of everything, that my life was finished. The wedding, the alliances, the future everyone had planned for me, it was all turning to ash. Outside, men were mounting their horses, loading their rifles. They were going to hunt him. Inside, I stood in my wedding dress, holding proof that some promises can never be broken. Not by time, not by distance, and not by all the walls the world tried to build. The storm was here, and for the first time in 16 years, I was ready to meet it. Thomas's grip on my arm was hard enough to bruise. "You knew him!" It wasn't a question. His blue eyes blazed. "That savage spoke to you. He called you a name." "Thomas, please." I tried to pull free, every eye in the church on us. "Don't lie to me." His voice cracked like a whip. "I saw your face. I saw how you looked at him." My father shouldered his way between us. "Take your hands off my daughter, Caldwell." Thomas released me but didn't back down. "Your daughter just destroyed her reputation. And mine." He called her by name. She took his gift. In front of half the territory. "We'll discuss this privately," my father said, his voice cold as steel. "Privately?" Thomas laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. "There's nothing private about this. The whole territory will know by nightfall that my bride welcomed an Apache in the middle of our wedding." His words hit me like stones. The wedding guests were divided now, some calling for a posse, others just savoring the scandal. Through it all, I clutched the thimble and the feather. This was real. He remembered. My father took my elbow. "We're leaving." "You can't just leave." Thomas blocked our path. "We have a wedding to finish." "No." The word came out of my own mouth, falling into a sudden, shocking silence. I raised my chin and met Thomas's furious gaze. "We don't." The silence exploded. Thomas's face flushed a dark, furious red. "You're refusing me? For him?" "I'm refusing to live a lie," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "This marriage was never about love, Thomas. It was about land and cattle. We both know that." "It was about civilization," he shot back. "About building something decent in this godforsaken wilderness. About keeping the bloodthirsty savages from—" "Stop calling him that!" The words flew out, sharp and revealing. Thomas's eyes narrowed to slits. The fury was gone, replaced by a cold, dawning certainty. "My God, you know him. You actually know that Apache." The world was crumbling, and I didn't have the strength to lie anymore. "I knew him when we were children." "Before? What?" My father's voice was dangerously quiet. I turned to face him. I saw the pieces clicking into place behind his gray eyes. I saw comprehension turning to rage. "Before we moved north, the summer I was 7. The summer you kept disappearing," my mother whispered, her face pale. "The summer you came back with scratches and wouldn't say where you'd been." "He was my friend," I said, the simple truth sounding like treason in that church. "Just a boy who showed me kindness when I was lost." My father's hand cracked across my face. The slap echoed through the church. I tasted blood where my teeth had cut my lip. "James!" my mother cried, moving between us. "She's a traitor," my father said, his voice flat and dead. "A traitor to her race and her family." Thomas stepped forward, his anger gone now, replaced by cold calculation. "This changes things, Whitman. The deal we made." "There is no deal," my father bit out. "Oh, but there is," Thomas smiled, a thin, cruel slash. "You promised me land and water rights with this marriage. That agreement stands. Or I'll make sure every rancher in this territory knows your daughter is an Indian lover. We'll see how your business partners feel about that." I watched my father's jaw work, saw the pragmatist in him weighing ruin against his rage. My entire life, my secret friendship, reduced to a business negotiation between two powerful men. Outside, horses thundered past. A posse was forming. They were going to hunt Nietzsche, to kill him, because of me. "I need air," I said, moving toward the door. Thomas grabbed me again. "You're not going anywhere. Let her go." The new voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise. Everyone turned. Miguel stood in the doorway, hat in hand. Behind him, several of the other vaqueros from our ranch had gathered. "This isn't your business, Miguel," my father warned. The old man met his gaze. "With respect, Patron, I remember the little girl who got lost and came home speaking Apache words. I remember how you forbade her to go to the creek, and how she cried for weeks." "Miguel." The warning in my father's voice was sharp. I also remember Apache raids where children died. Miguel continued, his dignity unshakable. This hatred is not a simple thing. But it is also not simple to punish a child for seeing another child, not an enemy. She's not a child anymore, Thomas spat. No, Miguel agreed, but perhaps the heart remembers what the child knew, that we are all human beneath the skin. Get out, my father ordered. You're fired, all of you. Miguel inclined his head. As you wish, Patron. He looked at me, his eyes full of a compassion I hadn't seen all day. Senorita, the past has a way of finding us. It is better to face it with truth than to live forever with lies. He put on his hat and walked out, the other vaqueros following him in a silent, powerful statement. In the stunned silence, I pulled free from Thomas and walked toward the altar. I turned to face the congregation, my people, the faces of fear, disgust, and scandal. But these were also the people who would hunt down a man for the crime of remembering. I'm going to tell the truth, I said, my voice ringing in the silent church. When I was 7, I made a friend. His name was Nietzsche. He saved me when I was lost, and we spent a summer playing by Willow Creek. I never saw him again until today. That's the terrible secret. A lonely child found a friend, and now you want to hunt him down for daring to remember. He's an Apache, someone shouted. They're murderers. Some are, I agreed, just as some white men are murderers. But the boy I knew was gentle, and the man who walked in here today brought a gift, not a weapon. Sarah, stop, my father commanded. You're making things worse. For whom? I faced him. For your business deals? For Thomas's pride? His face darkened. You're no daughter of mine if you stand with them against us. The words hit harder than the slap. I felt the last thread break. I looked at my mother, saw the tears on her face, but I knew she would stand with him. She always did. Then I suppose I'm no one's daughter, I said quietly. I walked down the aisle, past the rage and the whispers in the stairs. At the door, Reverend Morrison was the only one who had followed me. Where will you go, child? He asked gently. I looked out at the vast prairie. Somewhere out there, Nietzsche was riding, expecting pursuit. He had risked everything to see if I remembered. Now I had risked everything to answer him. I don't know, I admitted, but I can't stay here. I stepped out of the church and into a new life. Behind me, I could hear Thomas rallying the men for the hunt. The wind caught my wedding veil, tearing it from my hair and sending it tumbling across the churchyard like the ghost of a life I would never live. I didn't chase it. I lifted my face to the sky, where eagles circled high above the mesas, and I whispered the words I'd held silent for 16 years. I remember you, Nietzsche. I remember everything. 3 nights later, I was waiting by Willow Creek. I was hidden in an old line shack on the edge of my father's land, a ghost on my own property. Miguel had left me food and water before he'd ridden away. I'd traded my wedding dress to a traveling woman for a riding skirt, boots, and a man's shirt. The transformation felt like shedding a skin. An owl called. Then came an answering call. Too perfect, too human. He stepped out of the cottonwood shadows and into the moonlight. Nietzsche. For a moment we just stood there. 16 years of silence stretching between us. The warrior's paint was gone. I could see the boy I'd known and the stranger he'd become. You came, he said, his English still careful. Did you think I'd forgotten how to read your signs? I gestured to the pattern of stones he'd left by the creek, the same one from our childhood. His smile was a shadow of the one I remembered. Your Apache is rusty. 16 years rusty? I stepped closer, close enough to see the scar on his jaw. What happened? His hand went to the mark. Soldiers, 5 winters ago. He studied my face. You're thin and sad. I'm free, I corrected, or banished. My father has disowned me. The territory thinks I'm a traitor. I have nowhere to go. Because of me. Because of the truth. I sat on our boulder, the weight of the last 3 days crashing down on me. How did you know about the wedding? We trade with the Mexicans. They hear things. He settled on the ground, his movements still fluid and graceful. When I heard James Whitman's daughter would marry, I had to know if it was you, the little Eba who caught minnows and tried to count the stars. Why risk it? They could have killed you. His dark eyes met mine. Some things are worth the risk. We sat in silence, the creek singing between us. I pulled out the deerskin bundle. You kept this all these years. You kept this, he said, gesturing to the turquoise at my throat. To remember, I said, to prove I hadn't dreamed it all. He told me what had happened in the years between. The failed treaties, the spiraling violence. His band had tried to keep the peace, but peace was a luxury the frontier couldn't afford. He'd lost his parents to sickness, his sister to soldiers who didn't care to tell peaceful Apache from hostile ones. His story was a litany of loss. I told him mine. The years of being groomed into a proper lady, a commodity for my father's empire. The slow, hollow emptiness of a life that wasn't my own. And now, I finished, I'm a woman without a people. Too white for the Apache, too tainted for the whites. We match, you and I, he said softly. Then he stood abruptly, pacing to the water's edge. This is my fault. I shouldn't have come. I've destroyed your life for a memory. My life was already destroyed, I said firmly. I was just too afraid to admit it. You gave me the courage to stop pretending. He turned back, conflict in his eyes. What will you do? Where will you go? I don't know. East, maybe. Start over where no one knows me. Running, he said. Always running. What else is there? I can't go back. Thomas and my father have seen to that. What are you, Abba? He asked, using my childhood name. The name made my throat ache. I don't know anymore. He moved closer, squatting beside me so our eyes were level. I know. You're the girl who wasn't afraid of difference, who saw a person, not an enemy. That girl is still there. That girl got us both in trouble. Yes, he agreed, but she was also the only real thing in a world of lies. He reached out, his calloused fingers gently touching the turquoise at my throat. My grandmother said this stone binds souls, across distance, across time. Nietzsche, we can't, I whispered, but I didn't pull away. The world won't let us. Which world? His thumb traced my knuckles. The Apache world that's dying? The white world that cast you out? Or this world here, by the water, where we make our own rules? That world doesn't exist. Then maybe we take the moments. Reality crashed back in. They're hunting you. My father, Thomas, half the territory. They'll kill you if they find you. Let them try. Don't! I gripped his hand. I couldn't bear it if something happened to you because of me. He framed my face with his hands. Iba, I've lived 16 years as half a person. The Apache say I'm too soft because a white girl showed me kindness once. I could never hate all your people, because I knew you. He kissed my forehead, a gesture so gentle it felt like a blessing. There's a place, he said quietly, in the mountains, a valley where some of my mother's people live. Mixed bloods, outcasts. You could come, not as my woman, he added quickly, just as someone who needs a place to rest. And if they find me there, your people would suffer. They're already suffering. At least this would be for something worthwhile. I'm not worthwhile. You're Iba, he said simply, the woman who spoke truth in a church full of lies. That's worth more than all the cattle in this territory. I stood up, wrapping my arms around myself. The sensible choice was to go east, disappear, find a city, invent a new life. But sensible choices had led me to an altar with a man I didn't love. Pragmatism had kept me silent for 16 years. Maybe it was time to try something else. All right, I heard myself say, I'll come. For a while. A real smile transformed his face, and for an instant, he was the boy who taught me to read clouds. We should go. Dawn comes early. We set out as the eastern sky turned gray. Two figures moving away from the wreckage of one life and toward the uncertainty of another. As we climbed toward the mountains, I turned for one last look at the valley. Let them have it. Let them have their deals and their hatred and their pride. I had chosen the harder path, the one through the wilderness, but it was my choice, and that made all the difference. No regrets? Nietzsche asked, following my gaze. No, I said, and I meant it. No regrets. The sun broke over the horizon, painting the mountains in blood and gold and promise. The hidden valley was 3 days' ride into the mountains. We'd barely made it halfway when the smoke signals appeared. Dark puffs against the blue sky. Nietzsche's jaw tightened. Riders, many of them. He guided his horse off the trail, and I followed. We took shelter in a rock outcropping overlooking the valley below. Soon we saw the dust clouds, 2 of them. My heart sank. In the lead of the first group was Thomas Caldwell, his face a grim mask of determination. Behind him, 20 men from the neighboring ranches. Nietzsche pointed to the second group. Your father. James Whitman rode like a general, flanked by hired guns I didn't recognize. The 2 posses converged on the trail below, their voices carrying on the thin mountain air. Any sign? Thomas called out. Nothing since the creek, my father replied, but they're heading for the high country. Only one reason an Apache would take a white woman up there. He thought I'd been kidnapped. It was easier for him to believe that than to believe I chose this, that I chose Nietzsche. We slipped away, taking game trails that wound higher and higher, but the net was closing. By nightfall, we were hiding in a shallow cave, sharing water and dried meat in the cold dark. This was a mistake, I said quietly. I've brought disaster to you. No, I made my choice when I walked into that church. The consequences are I corrected. He was silent for a moment. You could go back. Tell them I forced you. They'd believe it. You want me to lie to save my life? I found his hand in the darkness. Yes. Then you don't know me at all. The girl by the creek didn't lie. The woman beside you won't lie now. A sound outside made us both freeze. Horses, riders passing within yards of our hiding place. Could be anywhere in these rocks, a voice said. I recognized it. Bill Morrison, Thomas's foreman. Keep looking, another replied. Caldwell wants her found before the Apache can sell her to Comancheros. What if she don't want to be found? Don't be stupid. No white woman would choose this. She's either forced or bewitched. The voices faded. I was trembling with anger. Bewitched. As if my own will meant nothing. By dawn, Nietzsche's face was grim. They're closing in. By noon, they'll have us surrounded. He turned to me, his eyes fierce. You don't understand. In their minds, I've defiled you. They'll kill me and drag you back to face their judgment. I won't let them. You won't have a choice. He cupped my face. Iba, I can't fight your whole world and keep you safe. My safety isn't your responsibility. Isn't it? He whispered. I started this. What we have started this, I corrected. He kissed me then, a desperate, tender kiss that spoke of fear and love. I'll lead them away, he said when he pulled back. Give you time to reach the valley. No. I gripped his shoulders. We stay together, or I go down there right now and tell them the truth. They won't believe you. Then I'll make them. I stood, moving toward the cave entrance. I'll shame them with the truth of what they are. He caught my arm. They'll call you mad, or worse. Let them. I've spent 16 years being what they wanted. A proper lady, a suitable bride. I played their game and lost myself. I won't do it anymore, even if it means death. He stared at me, then a short, sharp laugh escaped him. You always were stubborn. He pulled me back. All right, together, but we do this smart. There's another way. Harder. It means we climb. We abandoned the horses and started up the rock face. The climb was brutal. My hands scraped raw, my muscles screaming. Voices echoed from below. They'd found our horses. They're on foot. Check the cliffs. A shot rang out. Rock chips exploded near my head. More shots followed, the bullets whining past us. I climbed faster, adrenaline my only fuel. Above me, Nietzsche had reached a ledge and was reaching down. Sarah Whitman! Thomas's voice boomed from below. This is madness. Come down. Whatever he's done to you, we can fix it. I paused, looking down at the crowd of men. My father was there, his face a mask of fury. Thomas stood beside him, rifle raised. Men who'd known me my whole life. I'm not Sarah Whitman anymore, I called back. That woman died in your church. Then who are you? My father demanded. I looked up at Nietzsche, waiting, ready to die for me. I'm Iba, I shouted, my voice echoing across the canyon. I'm the woman who chooses love over fear, truth over comfort, and I'm not coming back. I scrambled the last few feet, Nietzsche pulling me onto the ledge just as more bullets ricocheted off the rock. We ran along the narrow path, scrambling ever higher. As the sun began to set, we reached a high plateau. Below us, the search parties were still coming. The valley is just over that ridge, Nietzsche said, pointing. We can make it by dawn if... He stopped listening. I heard it too. Horses, but from the wrong direction. From above us. A line of riders appeared on the ridge we were heading for. Apache warriors, painted for war. We were caught, trapped between two forces, and neither offered mercy. Your people? I asked quietly. The ones who think I've betrayed them by bringing you here. Nietzsche's voice was grim. The lead warrior shouted down in Apache, his words sharp with accusation. Nietzsche called back, his tone firm. The exchange grew heated. What are they saying? I asked. They say I've brought destruction on our people for a white woman. They say the soldiers will follow and destroy what's left of us. They want... He paused. They want me to give you to them, to trade you back to your people for peace. Nietzsche stepped in front of me, his hand on his knife. I told them they'd have to kill me first. The warriors spread out, surrounding us. Below, my father's posse was closing in, drawn by the commotion. This was it. This was how it ended. Trapped between two worlds that would never accept us. But as the sun touched the western peaks, painting the rocks in blood and gold, I found I wasn't afraid. I'd had my moment of truth. Whatever came next, I would face it as myself. Nietzsche, I said softly, thank you for finding me again, for reminding me who I am. He half turned, his eyes fierce. This isn't over. No, I agreed, taking his hand as both groups closed in. It's just beginning. The night exploded. The Apache warriors charged down the ridge just as the white posse scrambled up the lower slope. Gunfire split the darkness. Muzzle flashes lit the mountainside like deadly fireflies. Down! Nietzsche pulled me behind a cluster of boulders as bullets whined past. The Apache had taken positions, returning fire, caught in a battle they hadn't expected. They're fighting each other, I gasped, but they both want us dead. Not all of them. Nietzsche pointed to a group of Apache holding back, led by an older man with graying braids. That's Joseph Crow Dog. He trades with your people. He's a pragmatist. The firefight intensified. Men were falling on both sides, the air filled with the smell of gunpowder and blood. Stay here, Nietzsche commanded. Where are you going? To try to stop this madness. Before I could stop him, he was gone, moving low and fast toward Crow Dog's position. A bullet sparked off the rock inches from my head. I heard Thomas's voice, closer now, organizing a flanking maneuver. I watched Nietzsche reach Crow Dog. They spoke urgently. Crow Dog raised a hand, and some of his warriors ceased fire. The whites, sensing an advantage, pressed their attack. Then I saw my father. He stood, raised his rifle, and drew a bead on Nietzsche. No! I burst from cover, running across the open, rock-strewn ground. Father, stop! Everything went slow. My father's shocked face. Thomas lunging to intercept me. Apache warriors shouting warnings. The shot came from the right. Not my father, not Thomas. It was Bill Morrison, the foreman. I saw Nietzsche spin and fall, a dark stain spreading across his shirt. The world tilted. Cease fire! The command boomed across the battlefield, spoken in accented English. It was Joseph Crow Dog. Cease fire, or we kill you all. Gradually, the guns fell silent. I reached Nietzsche, dropping to my knees. The bullet was in his shoulder. Bad, but not fatal. Not yet. His eyes found mine, glazed with pain. Stubborn woman, he whispered. Quiet. I tore strips from my petticoat, pressing them against the wound. An uneasy standoff settled over the mountain. Apache and whites, weapons trained on each other. My father approached slowly. Sarah, step away from him. No, this has gone far enough. Men are dying. Because of your foolishness, he roared. I looked up at him. Men are dying because of hatred, because you can't accept that Apache blood is just as red as ours. Listen to yourself, Thomas sneered, moving closer. He's corrupted you, turned you against your own kind. My kind? I laughed, a bitter sound. The kind that hunts a woman like an animal because she refused to live a lie? Joseph Crow Dog stepped forward. This woman came willingly. She's confused, Thomas countered. Bewitched. Crow Dog's sharp eyes studied me. You are James Whitman's daughter, the one who speaks Apache. Some, I admitted. I learned from him. The war leader considered this. He spoke to Nietzsche in Apache, his voice urgent. Nietzsche, struggling to sit up, answered weakly. Crow Dog turned back to the whites. He offers a trade, his life for peace. He will go with you. Face your justice. The woman goes free. No, I said immediately. Absolutely not. It's the only way, Ebba, Nietzsche rasped, his hand finding mine. They'll never stop hunting us. If I surrender, you'll live. That's not living. I turned to my father. Is this what you want? To murder the man who saved your daughter's life when she was 7 years old? His jaw worked, but his eyes were hard as flint. He's Apache. Enough! Crow Dog raised his rifle. Decide now. Take the man and leave the woman, or fight and we all die. The moment stretched, thin and brittle. Then a new voice cut through the tension. What in the name of all that's holy is going on here? Reverend Morrison, of all people, was riding a mule up the treacherous trail. He surveyed the scene with weary disappointment. I can see you're about to compound one tragedy with another. He picked his way to where I knelt. This man needs treatment, or fever will take him. He looked at me, then addressed the crowd. I remember preaching about compassion, about judging not, lest we be judged. Apparently those were just pretty words for Sunday. This is different, my father protested. She's been taken by savages. Has she? Morrison looked pointedly at me, my hands covered in Nietzsche's blood. Seems to me she's exactly where she chooses to be, with someone she cares for, who's been shot for the crime of, what exactly? Being Apache? This man speaks sense, Crow Dog said. Rare in your people. I'm suggesting, Morrison said firmly, his voice carrying authority, that we stop this before it becomes a massacre. Before we all have blood on our hands we can't wash clean. Silence fell. I looked at my father, searching for a trace of the man who'd once taught me to ride. Please, I begged, if you ever love me, let us go. Something cracked in his expression, a fracture in his certainty. He looked at me, kneeling in the dirt, and maybe for the first time, he saw not his daughter, but the woman I had become. The cabin, he said roughly, 2 miles east, the old trapper's place, just to tend his wounds. He turned away, his voice breaking. Then I have no daughter. She died in that church. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't acceptance, but it was life. This isn't over, Thomas warned as Morrison helped me get Nietzsche to his feet. You think you can just walk away? The territory won't stand for it. Then the territory will have to change, I said. We began the slow journey to the cabin, a handful of Crow Dog's warriors serving as a wary escort. Behind us, the two forces watched each other across the blood-stained ground. Neither victorious, both diminished. As we walked, Nietzsche's head lolled against my shoulder. Still stubborn, he mumbled. Still protective, I replied. The cabin became our world for 7 days as fever took hold of Nietzsche. Reverend Morrison cleaned and stitched the wound, but the infection was deep. It's in God's hands now, he'd said before leaving. And yours. I bathed his burning skin, forced willow bark tea between his lips, and spoke to him constantly, willing my voice to be an anchor. On the third night, his breathing grew shallow. I thought I'd lost him. Don't you dare, I whispered fiercely, pressing my ear to his chest. Don't you dare leave me now. He muttered in his delirium, names I didn't know, and then, achingly, Aba. On the fourth dawn, the fever broke. His eyes opened, clear and focused on my face. Still here? He managed. Where else would I be? With your people. Safe. I squeezed his hand. You are my people now. As he recovered, we talked, really talked. He told me of the slow destruction of his band, caught between a white world that wanted them gone and a traditional world that no longer existed. We were caught between, he said. Like us, I whispered. Like us, he agreed. But maybe the world needs people who live between, who can see both sides. On the 6th day, visitors arrived. Joseph Crow Dog, with 3 warriors and a Mexican woman about my mother's age. This is Maria Brokenwing, Crow Dog said, Nietzsche's mother's cousin. Maria studied me with sharp, intelligent eyes. So you are the one who has turned the world upside down. She examined Nietzsche's wound. He'll live. You did well. Now what happens next? You can't stay here forever. Your people hunt you. Some of ours want you dead. We haven't decided, I admitted. Foolish, she snorted. She looked between us. There's a trading post south near the Mexican border, run by a man named Samuel Bridger. He married a Paiute woman. He understands living between worlds. He might have work for you. Why would he help us, I asked. Because his children are mixed blood, not welcome in either society. He's built something different there, a place for the displaced. Crow Dog nodded. I know Bridger, a strange man, but honest. It might work. It's 2 weeks' travel, Maria continued. Hard country. You'd need supplies. I have money, I said. Pearls I can trade. A small smile touched Maria's lips. You'd give up your white woman's jewels. Perhaps you'll survive after all. She pulled me aside as they prepared to leave. This life you're choosing, it won't be easy. You will never fully belong anywhere. Is he worth that? I didn't hesitate. Yes. Good, she said. Easy love is weak love. It's the difficult kind that lasts. After they left, Nietzsche and I sat outside the cabin. Are you ready for this? He asked. A life of exile? Never seeing your family again? I thought of my father's cold dismissal, and then I looked at Nietzsche. At the boy who taught me to read clouds and the man who risked everything to find me again. I've been in exile my whole life, I said. I just didn't know it until you showed me what home could feel like. We left at dawn on horses Crow Dog had provided. As we prepared to mount, Nietzsche caught my hand. Last chance. We ride south. There's no turning back. I silenced him with a kiss, our first as truly free people. South it is, I said. The journey south was a test. On the 10th day during a river crossing, Nietzsche's wound reopened. The infection returned, worse than before. By nightfall, fever had him again. He was dying. We were still 3 days from Bridger's post. At dawn, I made a decision. I loaded him onto my horse and turned not south, but east, toward a thin column of smoke I'd seen on the horizon. It was a mad gamble, but watching him die was worse. The smoke led to a small settlement of adobe buildings, mostly Mexican farmers, but also a Negro family, 2 Chinese men, and an ancient Pueblo woman who was their healer. No one asked questions. We are all running from something, the leader, a woman named Esperanza, told me. Here, we don't ask what. For 2 days, Nietzsche hovered between life and death as the healer worked her magic. On the 3rd morning, I woke to find him watching me, his eyes clear. Where are we? He whispered. Safe, I said. A place where people mind their own business. Didn't know such places existed. Neither did I. But trouble always finds you. A week later, 3 riders appeared, white men with badges. I recognized one from my father's posse. Inside now, Esperanza ordered. The men of the settlement gathered, armed with shotguns and knives. We stand together, Esperanza announced. They try to take our guests. They take us all. The riders stopped at the edge of the settlement. We're looking for a white woman, Sarah Whitman, the leader called out. Taken by an Apache. There's a reward. Esperanza stepped out. No one here by that name. We tracked them this far. Mind if we look around? Yes, Esperanza said simply. I mind. The tension was a razor's edge. The man hesitated. This was Mexican land, she bluffed, and their badges meant nothing here. After a long moment, he turned his horse. We'll be back, he warned, with more men. You must go tonight, Esperanza told us. Next time, we cannot stop them. They gave us supplies, a new map, and blessings in 3 different languages. Why? I asked Esperanza. Why help us? She smiled. Because once I loved a man my family said was wrong. We ran, and we found help. Now I pass it on. Someday, you will too. We reached Bridger's trading post at sunset the next day. It was a chaotic, beautiful mix of people from every corner of the earth. Samuel Bridger, a small man with kind eyes, listened to our story. His Paiute wife, Desert Flower, stood beside him. Maria Broken Wing sent us, I finished. She said you might have work. Bridger studied us. You can read and write? Do figures? Yes, I said. I had an education, back in my other life. We all had those, Bridger said. What matters is this one. I need someone to help with the books. Room and board, a small wage. Interested? Yes, we said together. And so our new life began. It wasn't easy. There were whispers, stares. But at Bridger's post, what mattered was honest work and keeping your word. I discovered a talent for numbers and languages. Nietzsche, fully healed, found work breaking horses with a gentle skill that earned respect. We fixed up an old cabin. Slowly, carefully, we built a home. 6 months later, Reverend Morrison appeared in the doorway of the trading post. I retired, he said simply. Decided I'd spent enough time preaching about love and not enough time witnessing it. He smiled. Your father regrets many things, Sarah. He'll never say so, but your mother keeps your room just as you left it. And Thomas? He married for a proper alliance. They seemed suited. That night in our cabin, I told Nietzsche everything. Do you want to go back? He asked quietly. I looked around our simple home. The bed we'd built, the curtains I'd sewn, the Apache baskets beside my few books. It wasn't a mansion. It was so much more. No, I said. This is my home. You are my home. Later, as we lay together in the quiet dark, he whispered, Do you remember me, Sarah? I was once the boy who played at your side. I smiled, completing the circle we'd started so long ago. I remember you, Nietzsche. I was once the girl who played at your side, and I am still. Outside, the desert winds sang through the canyons. Two worlds were still at war. But here, in this small space between them, two souls had found peace. The girl who played by the creek had become a woman who chose love over safety. The boy who saved her had become a man who risked everything for truth. Together, they were writing a story the world had never planned for. And it was enough. It was everything. Thank you for listening to this tale from the Wild West, where love bloomed against all odds in the harsh frontier. If you enjoyed this story, please let us know where you're listening from in the comments below. We love connecting with our audience around the world. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts about Sarah and Nietzsche's journey. Your support helps us bring more authentic frontier stories to life.